Hello friends, this is Jasu Bakuhatsu once again, welcome back to Let's Play Mega Man Unlimited. So, I just got finished bitching about Wily Stage 1. Actually, I wasn't quite finished, I forgot to mention the music. The music seems kind of jank and crappy as well for Wily Stage 1. I forgot to mention that in the previous video, so I'll mention it now. Another strange thing about the Wily stages that I forgot to mention is they did do one thing right in this game, which a lot of Mega Man games get wrong, and that's that as you can see, it does remember your progress while you're in the Wily Fortress. So if you complete a Wily stage, as long as you save your game afterwards, you can quit and restart right from where you left off. So that's good, but they did it in kind of a weird way. So you can save your game in the Wily stages, but you aren't prompted to unless you get a game over. You might notice that I have fewer lives than I had in the previous video. That's because I had to intentionally game over in order to save my game, which is... it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just kind of weird, and I don't know why they did it that way. Like, yeah, I just don't get it at all. There's, as far as I can tell, there's another little tiny E-Tank part that really probably should have just been a regular E-Tank, considering how much... This is, again, you're one of those stages where you're kind of in danger of taking damage, like dying because the enemies do so much damage, but you're also in danger of spike hazards, which are coming up in a moment. So yeah, we have this. It's one of these kinds of stages, as you can see, underwater and spikes. Okay, and this thing coming up is some bullshit. Oh my fucking god, I was prepared for it, and even then I fucked it up. Unbelievable. So yeah, right there, first of all, you might notice that all of the spikes in, like, underwater here are sort of the same color as the water, and they sort of blend in to the background and aren't really very readily visible. And there's spikes on that tiny little corner of the screen there where you won't really see them until it's already too late. You will just, again, like that one bullshit screen in Rainbow Man stage where they first introduced the prism enemies, it's just gotcha, basically, yeah, it's like gotcha style bullshit level design. It's like, oh, did you see that spike in, like, the split second that you had to react to it? No, you didn't, and because of that, you fucking die, unless you remember that that spike is there every single time. And I did remember that the spike was fucking there, and I died anyways, because even if you do know it's there, the timing is pretty strict. It's like, I can barely even conceive of anyone not dying there their first time through. It's just complete and utter bullshit. Ugh. And of course, as always, it sort of falls back on the familiar trope of just the whole point of the level is just constant danger of instant death everywhere. And even when there isn't, like, danger of instant death, like... Okay, I'm actually wrong there. I didn't think you could jump high enough to die on those spikes. These spikes are just there to psych you out. And yeah, that jump is, like, pixel perfect. There's, like, you know, occasionally in Mega Man games, they'll throw those kinds of jumps at you, where it's sort of just on the edge of Mega Man's jumping capability. You know, if you're a Mega Man veteran, you know, the kinds of jumps where you've got to sort of inch forward until you're just standing on just the very edge of the ledge, and then you jump forward. Those kinds of jumps. And it's not the worst thing in the world. I personally don't think that there's anything interesting or challenging about just forcing players to just sort of edge forward, and this is actually trickier than it looks. If you just jump straight up into the wall there, you'll die. Yeah, if you just, like, jump as high as you can and hug the wall on top there, you'll die. You won't have enough horizontal momentum to clear that there. And one thing that I noticed in my practice run through this level, I don't know if I hit a checkpoint or not. Anyways, those little sort of leprechaun pot of gold enemies, it's actually kind of cool. The physics of their coins, the coins that they toss out, is actually different underwater. They actually basically obey underwater physics. And I actually like this screen quite a bit. It's like there's a bit of risk-reward going on here. It's like you can sort of be risky and try doing tiny little jumps to try and kill those enemies, or you can sort of... It's sort of geared... Like, it's really tricky to do that, though, and if you hold the button just a little bit too long, you'll end up jumping into spikes and dying, which I've complained about before as being a thing that this game does too much, but it's kind of cool in that it encourages you to sort of take a different tack of that screen and slide under the enemies while their blades are retracted instead. So that's a good screen. I like that screen. Here, we've just got another ridiculously tricky jump, and I don't know if if we've encountered a checkpoint or not. Yeah, I just barely survived that. I don't know if the checkpoint is up ahead or just a bit later or what. Oh, and again, one of those jumps that's just barely... Oh, shit! I guess we're about to find out. I hope there was a checkpoint. If not, I'll restart the video. Okay, so it's right after a checkpoint. That's not too bad. Anyways, yeah, you can see here the coins are going up just a little bit higher and falling a little bit slower than they would otherwise. And I really don't want a game over on this level, actually. You might have noticed I used up all of my... Whoops. Oh, well, I don't know why I habitually decided to... Shit! A lot of times in this game it's set up so that it's like a trap. It traps you into thinking that Rush Jet would be a good idea, but it actually ends up being more difficult than it would be to just go through the level regularly. And actually, if I do game over here, I am just going to restart the level. Yeah, the timing on those guys can be really tricky. If you don't get them so that they spawn at just the right times, yeah, it can be really tricky to get through there. And I'm going to have to get through the rest of this level on my first try. I don't think there's any more, like, just completely horrendous bullshit that'll end up getting me killed or anything. It's pretty... The second half of the stage isn't nearly as bad as the first half. It's still irritating, and again, really frustrating if you end up dying on the second half and have to replay the whole long stage all right from the beginning. It's just, yeah, the Wily stages in general in this game are just really horrendous and unfun, and I don't know why these spikes are even here. No one is... It's not even possible to jump that high. It's just... And there's spikes above on the other screen, so there's like no I guess just put overhead spikes on like everywhere where there's even the remotest possibility that a player might jump into them, because... Am I actually stuck here? I didn't think this through. I guess I got a Rush Jet to go out. Okay, that was again a bit of a trap. A bit more trouble to get those than it was worth. Anyways, yeah, I guess we just gotta put spikes on, like, every single ceiling, because, hey, someone might just jump into them, regardless of how out of the way they are. And that would just be great. That's exactly what we want, is for people to jump into spikes as much as possible. And here we've got a bit of a little bit of a maze going on here. Yeah, a few different paths we can go through, which is kind of neat, I thought, at first, but... Like, yeah, multiple routes through a level. I've mentioned in other LPs, I like that kind of thing. Nice to have a few different ways to get through a level. That's not what's going on here. This is a maze. There is only one correct path through here, and if you don't end up getting the correct path, then you'll just end up wasting a whole bunch of weapon energy, which is irritating. You get an E-tank, I guess, if you're willing to put up with all of that nonsense. But, again, it's not really worth it. At least it's a whole E-tank this time, so they have that going for them. And again, like I said, this whole second half of the stage is nearly as irritating as the first. I don't think I've ever actually died, like, past this point, and I think we've already passed the boss checkpoint. The checkpoint in this stage works the same as in the previous one, same as all the Wily stages. You don't get a checkpoint right in front of the boss gates. The checkpoint is further back in the level, but the checkpoint closest to the boss gates doesn't activate until you've reached the boss gates, even though the checkpoint itself is way further back in the level, which is dumb and irritating, and I don't know why the hell they would have done it that way, but whatever. So yeah, we're a bit hazardous here, and actually that was really dumb of me to Rush Jet over that, because there could have been those little missile enemies popping out of the pit for all I know. I believe this is the boss gate right here. There we go. I guess we can... I believe this is a net gain in Rush Jet if I do this. Okay, so this boss is interesting. It's actually not a bad boss, not as difficult or dumb as the last one. It does have the possibility for instant death if you're not careful, but it's like really telegraphed, and it's not hard at all to dodge, and it's really easy to see it coming. And this is actually a pretty good boss, I think. The timing on these bullets is tricky. There's a lot of stuff you've got to sort of keep track of. And yeah, you've got to time your jumps on the sort of projectiles coming at you from the side, and this is it right here. And it's actually a bit trickier than it looks, because if you jump too early, then you end up falling down before he's actually done stomping, and actually I'm gonna die if I'm not careful here. So okay, this guy's weakness is Glue Shot, which does extra damage to him, or does it? And it's also a bit easier to hit him, since it's got a bit of a downward arc, but it doesn't really do a whole lot of damage, and it's barely more effective than using the Buster. What I like to do is to use the Nail Shield, which it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It does, as you can see, only one pellet, but it blocks all of his shots and makes the fight, like, super easy. So yeah, even though Glue Shot does, like, a little bit of extra damage, and it's technically his weakness, the Nail Shield is definitely the way to go with that boss fight. It just completely trivializes the whole thing. If you use the shield, your only danger of dying there is his little crushing insta-death thing, which, like I said, is not super easy to dodge. The timing's a bit tricky. Jump too early and he'll still be at the top of the screen when you come down, and you'll fall into a pit and die. Jump too late and you'll just end up getting crushed. So it's a bit tricky, and it's conceivable that people might actually die to it, especially if they aren't expecting it, even though it's kind of telegraphs. But I'd say that stage actually isn't as horrendously irritating as the first Wily stage in terms of like bad design or anything. Like that one spike that I harped on about really pissed me off, and I just absolutely hate that it's there, and it's like completely 100% objective bad game design that they just have this random spike that you can barely even see and is going to kill you no matter what. And that was an intentional suicide there, just to get the chance to save my game. But yeah, even though it's not as consistently horrendous, I'll say, as Wily 1, and the music is better too. I actually like the music in Wily Stage 2, but it's still not very fun. It's overlong, overly reliant on instant death gimmicks and really, really tricky jumps underwater, which is a thing that they do in Mega Man games a lot. Mega Man 10, I actually had the same criticism of some of the Wily stages in Mega Man 9 and 10, although it wasn't as big of a problem in those games, since it wasn't as big a problem throughout all of those games. It was just a thing they did in one Wily stage as kind of a gimmick. But like I said, that stage, not as horrendously bad as the first one from a game design perspective, but it is certainly longer and tougher than the first Wily stage. And that's just the pattern that we're going to go through here. It's only going to get more difficult, and the stages are only going to get longer from here. So join me for that when we come back. I'll see you then.